So as I said, if you will be opening the link which I have given you of the exercise, which is about the database diagram, ER diagram, we are using a particular online tool which is known as appdiagram.net. So here in this tool, when you will link open this particular URL, you will be seeing that an option to save this particular diagram. We are going to do that later, and I'll say decide later, right? On the your right hand side, you have the different shapes to be used, and each shape is having a meaning. Example, when we will talk about the rectangle, when we talk about our shape of rectangle, right? It is represents an entity. When we talk about the shape of primary key, foreign key, so each one of them is having a separate use case, right? So what we are going to do is here first we are going to add the certain shapes here, okay, as a part of the certain shapes. Here first what we are going to do is we are going to add our table shapes, okay, then will be needing the 4 table shapes here, right? And as a part of the table shape, you can search it here. You will be having, you can do on the search section, go to the search section and type the table. You will be seeing the table is available, right? Then what next we are going to do is we will be adding the one more table here. And then we will be adding a one more table here. And then we are adding a one more table here. So if we want, tables can be represented into the different ways. This is one of the way in which we can represent the table, or we have the another different ways also in which we can represent the table. You can see here we have a table in which we're representing the list way, list item. This is also table representation. This is also in the table representation. This is also a table representation. So we can choose the different tables based on how we guys, please mute yourself. Right, thank you. So here what we have the option is we have the option to choose from our entity relationship. Okay. And you can see inside the entity relation, the different table options are available with us, right? So each one of them is representing the different meaning. I'm going to stick to this particular table representation of the data where we have table name can be specified. And if it is a primary key or if it is a foreign key, that also can be specified. So make sure that you create the 4 copies of the same 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? In the first now, you can see what we are going to do is first we are renaming this one as the employee. In the employee, we are adding in primary key section here and we're calling it as an EMP underscore ID. Then we are renaming our column names, which is we have row 1, we will call that as the first name. And we have our next one, which I'm going to call as the last name. And sorry, the last one called as the email. Similar to this, we will be having the another set of tables, which we have seen already in our PPT. This I'm going to call as the department. In the department, we will be having a department ID. Here we'll be having a name. And here we'll be having it for this last row 3 is not required, so we are going to delete that and we are going to adjust the size of the same. Right, so we can see that we have an employee table now, and then we have a department tables also been added as a part of the ER diagram. And in the entity, what we have done is we have selected a table from the entity relationship model, right? Then the third table which we are going to work first is the skill table. In the skill table, what I was having is we'll have a table name. Then we will be have a column name which is skill underscore ID. Okay. Here what we are doing is we are specifying the first column name which is description, right? And we don't need the rest of the two columns. So what we are doing as we don't need them, we are gonna select here, double click, and we'll be using the delete option. Similarly, select here, double select this and delete it. So we'll be having these three tables first. Employee table, where we'll have an employee details, department, and the skill. Then, as this particular table needs to have the two primary keys, and which is going to act as a foreign key for the employee and the skills table, what we will use is in the entity relation, we have this is a table one, then we have another table where we can have the two primary keys, okay, and the two foreign keys. So we will be choosing the second set of items now, right, based on our ER model for the correct representation of the information. Here, this table we are going to call as the employee skill table. And whenever we are creating the tables, we'll make sure that there's no spaces between the table name. I'm going to call it as the employee underscore skill. Here, the first column which we are going to have is the EMP ID, which is basically belongs to the employee table. And the second column of the primary key is going to be the skill ID. So basically it represents that combination of the employee and the skill is going to be unique, right? This is what I was talking about the bridge table, right? So what happens is in the databases, when we deal with the scenarios like employee and skill, where we have the multiple relationships, basically where we have end-to-end relationships, right? So to avoid the end-to-end relationships and bring them as a one-to-one relation or one-to-many relation, we will use the concept of a bridge table. Okay. So here in this bridge table of employee and skill, what we are doing is we are saying that combination of the employee and the skill together is going to be unique, that one employee can have a one unique skill. So let's say if the employee ID is 1 and the skill ID is 100, then the combined together it is going to be 1 plus 100, which can be equal as a 1 underscore 100. Similarly, if the employee ID is 1 and the skill is 200, then the second unique ID is going to be 1 underscore 200. So this way we will get the unique set of information to bridge our employee and the skill table, and we will not have any end-to-end kind of relationships in this scenario. So here now in the employee and skill table, we'll be having the column which is skill underscore level. And as we don't need this column, we are going to select this and delete it. So these are the four tables which we will have first, okay, before we will add the next set of columns here, right? Then what we need to do is we need to add the here, what we are going to do is now we need to define the relationships between that. So to define the relationship, right, there are the different options are there. So if you will see in the entity relationships, right, each line is representing different. So we have one to many, okay. We have one mandatory, one to one is there, then one is there, then 0 to 1 is there, many to many relationships are there, right? And what we are doing is we are building our between employee and the skill, we are building our relationships, okay, which is going to be in between the employee and the skill, it is going to be one to many, okay. And similarly between our employee and skill, here employee and employee skill, it is going to be one to many. Between skill and employee skill also, it is going to be one to many. So what is which one is one to, here we have this one, which is basically we are going to use between employee skill and the employee table. So this becomes your relationship between the employee skill and the skill table. Which relationship we have used? We have used this particular relationship. You can see each of them is having a different representation. The one which we are using is one mandatory to many optional, right? One mandatory and many optional. Same relationship we are going to specify here between our employee ID and the employee skill table also. Then one mandatory, this represents then one mandatory and many optional. So that is where we have, this multiple relationships specified here, right? Now, as a part to join our department and our employee table, what we need to do is we need to add now a department ID as a foreign key in our employee table, right? So for that, what we need to do is now we need to look for the table which can have this particular option of adding the department as a foreign key. Are we clear till this point? Anyone is having any questions in this so far? Are you able to follow the lab guide as well? All right. Then last one, what we have is we need to define the relationship between our department to the employee table. And what relationship we are going to choose is we are going to choose is one mandatory to many optional in this case as well. Right. So same thing what we have selected here. So this becomes the scenario where we can see that employee is linked to the employee skill. Employee skill is linked to the skill table. Okay, and then the employee is linked to the department table as well. Right. So in this case, now if we want to first, so this becomes the ER diagram, which represents the information. I want to save this, let's say, as my employee ER diagram. We can save it as a SVG file, PNG file, and email file, however we want, and we can save it. This particular information can download this particular information. However, when we want, we can export this, let's say, as a PDF, and I want this to be saved on a local device. And then, it's going to save and open a PDF file for us. Okay, so now if you will share this particular ER diagram with someone, they will understand that how the employee is linked to the employee skill. Then we have an employee skill links to the skill table based on one mandatory skill is linked to the employee skill, and then the relation between the department's table and the employee table. So similarly, if we want to add multiple other tables, that can be done accordingly with the help of the different options which we have. So each shape basically represents the one specific use case. We cannot really just keep adding the shapes as and when we want. We need to be very specific with the shapes what we need, right? So that is where we would need to understand that how the entity relationship is going to work here. In case if you want to further edit it, you want to edit the size, structure, everything can be possible with the help of this tool. That's more about from the tool perspective. But yes, when it comes to the ER diagram, we can see that these are the different options. This is the basic ER diagram which we have created with the help of the different options which we have. If we want to include the different, if we are creating an UML object as well, that also is possible. But yes, each object which we are specifying here is having a certain meaningful for that. So in case if you want to enlarge these images, that also can be done. Right, so that's where we have the option to create a particular set of tables from this. Right, anyone any questions so far in this? So that's where we have understand now in terms of practical implementation, how we have built a logical, how we have built a physical schema yesterday, right? And we can generate the different types of scripts using the database. Now this logical diagram, if you will see, help me understand that, okay, there is an employee table, which is going to have a one-to-many relationship with my departments table. Then as a bridge table, I'll have employee skill table, right? And then there is a skill table, which is going to have the unique skills available into it. And it's going to again have a one-to-many relationship with the employee skill table. So if I need to write the queries to find out that in particular department, how many employees are there which belongs to particular skill, we would be using departments table, employee skill table, and the skill table to find out that set of information. So when we will be dealing with the actual SQL, I have read certain comments yesterday. So we haven't started the SQL yet. This is the overview about the databases, that if you have to first learn the SQL, first you should understand what is a